Hi friend, you might already know that my life has changed quite drastically recently when I swapped a big city for a quiet countryside. But of course, this year was a big change for all of us. You also might have experienced a lifestyle quite different to what you're used to, being almost forced to slow down and stay at home for the most part. Before I moved out of a big city, and even before the world forced us to change, I'd always work from coffee shops or find someplace else to go to where I'd surround myself with a busy social environment. I'm an introvert, but that doesn't mean I don't love people watching. I'd go to a cafe, hide in the corner, and then write, edit, work, observe from that quiet place so close to others yet so far in my mind. And life was fast. There was always somewhere to run, always something to do, someone to communicate with. Doesn't this sound like a memory from a far, far past now? I am now creating a new reality, creating a life which will work with my current situation. And I'm not talking about 100% certain long-term solutions here, as what I've learned over this past year is that there is no long-term solutions to anything. Nothing lasts forever, and the life you have right now might change. You should be open to this change. Of course, when I first came to this conclusion, I got a little bit anxious. You see, I'm an avid planner, so having to go with the flow seemed crazy at first. The first thing that helped me put my mind in order when life seemed to be all over the place is writing. I don't mean just writing to-do lists or journaling, but a different kind of writing. Try to write a letter, as if you're writing to a friend, like I am writing to you right now. Imagine a person, someone who is going to read your thoughts without judgment, without giving you an unwanted advice or criticize you for it. There is something magical in writing a letter. Humans used to communicate through letters all the time, and I think it's a wonderful little habit to introduce back into your life. Writing a letter to no one has the same mental outcome as talking to a friend or even a therapist. Let paper become your companion, especially if you either don't have anyone to talk to right now or simply don't want to share your thoughts. Very importantly, write by hand. I always feel like writing by hand has some healing properties. Your thoughts almost become materialized. It's as if you take them out of your head and free up that space which cluttered your mind to this point. And then there's nature. That's the second thing I want to suggest to you to quiet your mind. I used to dislike nature a little bit, thinking that anything living and I don't go well together. Actually, I was quite an outdoorsy kid, but it still didn't help me learn how to care for plants or enjoy the slow living surrounded by trees and fields and flowers. But regardless of where you live, in a big city apartment or in the middle of nowhere in the countryside, you can surround yourself with nature. Start with fresh flowers or small plants that's easy to keep. Freddy here, for example, was my first plant, and he is still with me. Yes, I named him Freddy like Freddie Mercury, and I love him a lot. Little by little I accumulated more plants, and miraculously I was able to keep them alive. This was my first step towards love for nature. When I lived in a big city surrounded by the concrete jungle, I searched for the little green places within the city. I was lucky to live near the river and a small park with century-old trees for the past 3 years, and whenever I needed more strength or calming energy or a distraction from my anxieties, I went for a walk by the river under these trees. By the time I came back home, my mind felt calmer and replenished. I started craving nature more and more, and I realized that I can't live in a concrete jungle anymore. Now that I live in the countryside, for the nearest future, nature is like part of my being. Isn't it funny how it all started with just one little plant? Perhaps you might also have a small park and beautiful trees near you where you can go for a walk and breathe some fresh air. Or if not, consider getting yourself your own Freddy and surround yourself with nature inside your own apartment. And then there is a third little tip for you. Do mindless tasks which take your mind off the things you must do. We tend to go on autopilot and rush through our to-do list without catching a breath. We believe that we always need to be thinking, doing something to become smarter or more successful every second. We read self-help books and throw away fiction. We fill up our days to the brim, happily work into the night. Yes, sometimes we need to push a bit harder and do more to reach our goals, but it's not all there is to life and not all there is to our being. Slowing down is as vital to your health and success as checking every task off your list. Slow your thoughts down. What helps me to do that is doing some mindless tasks, the ones which don't require active thinking, for example, cleaning, or cooking, or walking in the garden. I decluttered my space very drastically and got rid of old things I haven't used for more than a year. That's my rule. If I haven't used something for a year, or haven't even thought about using it once, then it doesn't belong in my space. I have also thrown away all of my old journals, which I've kept for many years. Why, you may ask? Because those journals are full of anxious thoughts, which is what I'm trying to get rid of to slow down my mind. I found that there was no reread value in them, as they're full of anxieties I still experience from time to time, so I need to get rid of them both physically and symbolically. And sometimes I simply bake cookies or make coffee. These are wonderful things that don't take much time, but whenever you're busy doing them, they allow you to focus solely on the process. And that's what we want on the quest to quiet our mind. Naturally, I am not a very slow person. Actually, I'm too fast and too active at times, even reactive, more so. But we have to learn to follow our own timeline, our own pace. Life is generally pretty fast and we feel like we always need to be faster and do more. But actually, we all have our own pace and timeline for our lives. We don't all have the same path and we don't have to chase each other so much and so often. Take time in the day to focus on yourself. Remember your own goals, what makes you happy. Do something that's going to bring you closer to the life you want to live, not the life you're conditioned to believe you should live. We put more pressure on ourselves than anybody else. Be kind to yourself. Notice moments when you're experiencing negative thoughts, when you spiral down into guilt or self-deprecating behavior. As someone who battles with the feeling of guilt every day, this slowing down practice has really become something so important to me. Slowing down and taking care of our mental health is really something we have to remind ourselves of. It's easy to forget when you're busy with your daily life, but when we remind ourselves of our inner peace, when we take time to work on it, when we practice positive habits daily, it's going to become a second nature to you the more you repeat it. So tell me, how do you quiet your busy mind? Speak soon.